Double thumbs up. We are live. I'm gonna try and do a little sculpting tutorial on this picture I posted on Instagram. This is going to be a contest at some point to actually do the final sculpt, but I'm going to show you guys just a quick little thing in how I sculpt in a quick way just to get your form down. So I hope the sound is okay. Tonight we will be rocking out to the soothing sounds of Infect, an awesome band from Brazil. Check them out. Okay, so I would like to, I use Fondo Soft. This is a paper clay. It dries out, it air dries. You can keep it wet, you can re-wetten it to connect parts. So, play around with that for quick stuff, for quick form. So, when I start a sculpt, I make the hollow form first. And you want about a 1/2 inch general uniform thickness, and then you can start to push your form or push your shape in, depending on what you're going for. So I'm gonna try to just do the head first, really loose and rough. We want a general round head. It's not entirely round, but let's see. The clay got a little dry in some parts because I didn't properly store it. So, if you're going to be away from the clay for, more than 20-30 minutes, you want to put it in like a Ziploc baggie, or just you got to wrap it up. No glove, no love. Or else you're going to be dealing with the dry clay. So, yeah, it looks like we're kind of in the sphere ballpark. Again, this is just a rough, just to figure out the kind of shape and sizing and stuff. So, we're going to do the neck. And when you're doing, when you're connecting these two parts, you want to, you just always want to make sure that you're working with kind of like flat surfaces, especially if it's going to be a jointed area. So, I'll periodically tap it on the table, just kind of roll it around just to get it in those sort of general straight-ish shapes, because you're going to be going back in and just sort of, you're just building this kind of thing up in layers, and then we're going to be able to kind of stretch and move that around a bit. So, just wetten it with water, preferably. I forgot to put water down. I forgot to put a water cup down. So we are using my herbal tea to join these two areas. I guess I could have, if it was like pottery, I could have scorched each side and got it super wet, and then we'd really be in business at that point. Here the gap is a bit too big to fill in, so once this kind of dries a little bit, I'll just go over that and add another layer to fill that in. I could have been a bit more careful in making this head sphere shape and making sure that I pulled those points, pulled them more flat. Again, whenever you're sort of like joining two different areas, you want to make sure that there's room and space for where they meet up. But let's see. So in the very initial stages of this rough sculpting, I tend to use children's toys or children's sculpting tools, just to keep it kind of fast and loose. Because what we are doing here is we're just kind of connecting those two pieces that we joined together. We want them connected on both the inside and the outside, so that will give it kind of some structural integrity. And then, oh, I forgot also, when you push stuff from the outside to inside, you end up filling in these holes, as you can see, from the inside out. So you just want to go through and make sure to, apply pressure so that those two sides are joined. Okay, and then this was the neck. I forgot to get all my tools out. So then the neck we're gonna put in here, and then I know I can always, as I'm going, I can always cut stuff down to make it longer or shorter. But this is, close enough. And so I know I want the neck a little bit shorter. Sorry, I'm watching the sculpt more than I'm watching the video. So if I go out of frame, sorry about that. I'll try to keep a better eye on all this stuff as I go. But welcome to my very first tutorial on YouTube Live. Once again, I didn't post that I was going to be putting these up, so I doubt anybody's going to be swinging by, but if you do, welcome. Here I can... Well, no, actually, I like that. So if this is the sculpt for the He-Moon Kun, I like keeping it more, a little bit more skull-like in this shape, so it's going to have that back part is going to come up a bit higher in here in the way a skull would. So I guess we're kind of making this the back, and then just come in here and smooth that out. In here, you need to fill that in. So I just add a little bit of moisture and then the soft clay. Go in and just, blend it in. Sometimes if you don't fan it out all the way and really kind of blend it in or feather it in, and if it's not wet enough, some parts can kind of lift up off of you. So just be mindful of that. I believe I could pull up a picture that I just posted of the He-Moon Kun, but I believe it's kind of like an eyeball sitting on a neck, although I like the idea of the eyeball head being in kind of a skull form, even if it's just this loose kind of general shape, because this is going to be our... Damn it. It's hard to keep this stuff in line. Okay. So there's our head, there's our neck. I'm going to just see what it looks like if I actually sculpt the whole eyeball in. Like as if this were just a big old puckery all-seeing eye. I like, the idea of the He-Moon Kun is that, this is sort of is a representation. My first idea was to call it Eburiman-san, so like a Japanese way of saying Mr. Everyman. I guess the idea being that like as we integrate with AI, or as we integrate more and more with this great interface, as I'm able to interface with you, as we all become part of the collectiveness of it all, is this our final, will this be our final form, or an iteration of one of our forms? I don't know. Sometimes, it's late at night, you're tired, your mind's still kind of spinning a little bit, and you just kind of zoning out on shit. You're like, oh yeah, what about that? And then you just keep, if you got an idea. It's actually rare that I draw stuff out like that in that form, but I thought it would be great to walk you guys through sort of like the whole process of the concept or the idea, and then see it as it goes through its kind of iterations. I think visually that might make a bit more sense, or might be a bit more, I don't know, easy to translate or easy to resonate. So, I'm not gonna like spend a whole bunch of time on this eyeball here, because this is again just laying out shape and seeing if this is, if I'm on the kind of right track, or if I want to convey this as I do these sort of like little things. Can I then convey it to a sculptor? Oh yeah, here's I did this part and I didn't like it. So we can, later on, we can add, veins, or if we want to make it more mecha looking, we can make it more mecha looking. But again, we're just kind of roughing out that general shape. So what are we? We're 12 minutes in, so that took me 12 minutes just to kind of like get my head, get my form. I can later on, as it's still drying, as it's air drying, it's still malleable. It'll still be malleable into tomorrow. And because it's hollow inside, I can sort of make these like quick sort of form revisions as I sculpt it and as I move it around, and kind of look at like, what's the overall form and function that I'm kind of looking for. I find that a lot of times when you're sculpting stuff, these little kind of like weird tweaks where, it looks like maybe a chin comes out more or a chin goes in less, is really where you find you get a lot of the form and character and that kind of personable, what's the word I'm looking for? That way in which we connect to something. Personality. So that is our head. I forgot to get the other bag of paper clay, so I only have a little bit left. So I'll just work on the very top, the very upper part of the shoulders, chest and shoulders, and then as that piece dries, I will add another piece coming down to give it the like abdomen. But I've sculpted chests like this before, where you break it up into kind of its parts, knowing that there's going to be another sort of like weird line, or it gives you a bit more like textural play or whatever, and allows you to kind of come up with kind of different shapes or weirder shapes. So what I'm doing is just kind of like, I want to, if I know that this is going to be the top of the shoulders, the upper chest, this is going to be the back, And then the head is going to sit on here. Ugh, it's so hard to, it's like looking in a mirror, like doing something in a mirror. I don't know why it's this hard. But so this is going to be the upper torso. This will represent the upper torso. And then on the drawing, I have it as like, there's this kind of hollowed in recess where the arm goes, or the whole sort of like side goes. And we'll push that in. We're gonna push this side in, push this arm side in. You gotta be careful not to get too thin as you push stuff and move stuff around. Sometimes you can get an area that's like too thin, and then you just sort of blow through it, and then it takes you a bunch of time to get it kind of filled back up. So, you know, try to be a little bit careful as you go. So this is our kind of, you know, puffy chest, puffy billowy chest. He's got a good kind of, you know, forward chest, a good forward pose. Backs tend to go in. They're a bit more flat, you know. Maybe you want to put in kind of like the shape of a spine or something, as if there's like something kind of, you know, actually sort of a bit more dimensional in there. I don't know. Again, if I just, you know, if you're just kind of going loose, you're like looking at shapes, and then as it dries or as you stare at it a bit more and more, you'll get ideas. What I like to do actually is I like to post sort of process sculpt pictures on Instagram or post them on social media, and then, you know, look at the figure through that lens and see, you know, see how people react to it, see what people are saying. But I think also looking at it through a different lens or a different scope makes you kind of look at it a little bit differently, or see things in a little bit differently, or you'll catch a shadow that you didn't notice or something like that. So this is the head, this is the chest. I need to make the cowl that's going to slide up and over. There's actually going to be a bunch of other stuff going on in here. There's has a clock window chest thingy, so I'll mark that in, and I'll either just like cut this piece out, and then as I sculpt it with that hollow piece inside. So I'll probably do that. So I'm gonna let this dry. I'm gonna let this part kind of dry a little bit, and then I'm gonna start cutting stuff in, taking stuff out. But this is my first sort of like little test setup at lighting and sound and everything else to do these tutorials. So I'm gonna keep this one short. I will work on this sculpt a little bit more, and I will start from a bit more of a finished sculpt. But you know, you can always look back at this as just the very first basic intro into making these hollow shelled empty sculpts. You know, as you can see, the clay, the paper clay, you know, because you keep it relatively thick, does hold up. It doesn't slump down or fall down. It holds its form. So my suggestion would be whatever paper clay you look for that's available to you, it should be at least of this thickness and this malleability. But there's all different kinds, so play around with them, fart around with them, see if anything works for you, see what you like. Check it out. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thanks for the DMs. Thanks for all the great questions. Thank you. I will post a follow-up video probably starting from tomorrow. So, all right, keep your eyeballs peeled. Thanks again, guys. All right.